afternoon, everybody. I am Bart Winkler. Welcome into the Winklerverse. Graham Bill's beside me. Paul Limig as well. What a pleasure it is to see both of you gentlemen. Wednesday, March 25th is not a day that happened in 2025. Wednesday, March 26th is, and that is today. And see, that's one of the tricks you got to learn in the broadcast business is to find a way to recover. Don't stop. Never say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You say rather. Rather's a big, rather. Anyway.
Is JJ Watt taking notes, I hope?
Do you know that picture that they released?
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
What?
No, you go.
What am I going to say?
I thought my first note as JJ was showing like this text chain with Iron Eagle was that he has a cold tub branded with JJ.
Okay, I did not see the text chain. I didn't see JJ's tweet on it.
Okay.
But I saw CBS Sports say it's Iron Eagle and JJ Watt together in a booth next year. And I'll have you guys look it up. But the picture that JJ Watt, the face he is making is a face like, I know you don't like this, but I'm doing it. You're stuck with me.
Are you
I know you don't want it. I know you're like, not this guy, but here I am.
I need to find
who's the what?
Who's the originator of the tweet?
The CBS Sports tweet that you sent.
Oh, now I got to look closer at that part of it.
Just in that picture, he looks like
it's just kind of smuggy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Here's my big concern. Am I going to learn something when I watch a game that JJ Watt
is calling? I know you're kidding and you're being an ass because that is in fact that is in fact the number one job requirement, as smart people like me and Bukowski will tell you.
Oh, yeah. No, go ahead. You're right. You're right. You guys are on that island. That's not a group that I'm a part of, unfortunately.
All right, Bart, we're distracting you.
Well, this is a distraction from what's been keeping me busy today, and that's that Marvel is slow dripping the release of the cast of Avengers Doomsday, which I kind of would rather. I kind of would rather not know. I kind of just rather watch the movie and be like, "Oh fuck, there's those guys." But they're showing all these chairs, like they've been doing it since 10 in the morning. I don't know how long it's supposed to go, but it's like the slowest Royal Rumble reveal ever. And it's been keeping me busy. So at the end of this episode, and I'll probably cut it separate, we're gonna give like 10 minutes of thoughts on Severance. Spoiler.
Yeah. Right.
So dip out if you haven't seen it, or don't give a shit. You can leave early too. I don't care as long as you sit through like one ad break. I think
that is the key. Let's be honest.
I think that's. If you fast forward it, I don't just get click as long as it registers that click that you were there at like the 16-minute mark. All right, so Doc Rivers, we got to start there. Got to start with Doc Rivers this week. First of all, the Bucks. Paul, you and I were talking last week. We basically said Giannis needs to do this, Dame needs to do this.
Yep.
I don't think Dame's. I think he's not playing.
No.
In the playoffs. His leg's not just going to be like.
This isn't like your typical like, well, let's see how the healing is on the ankle. Like the Spurs probably don't mind having to tank because now they can maybe wind up with another top 5 pick in addition to what they have. But in the case of Dame and the Bucks, it's like, we don't know. Like, how do you project something like that? Right. But as we talked about when the Bobby suspension happened, I think we said to each other something like, the Bobby suspension isn't like the biggest deal, but it's a sign that this just ain't the year. It's like, yeah, it's probably just a sign. If you needed yet one more sign, here you go.
So a hypothetical would be if the Bucks are the 6th seed and they're playing the 3-seeded Knicks, and they drag themselves and they work very hard, and they actually, without Dame, have a 3-1 lead in this series.
Oh, here you go.
And then they blow it. Do we give credit to the Bucks for getting that far? So here's some of the stuff that Doc Rivers had said. He was talking with Mark Spears at anscape.com. And they were talking about the bubble, and they were up 3-0, I think, at least 3-1. And they were talking about the bubble. And Mark Spears is like, does that like make you mad that you blew that lead? And essentially, Doc said, look, it came out later. The team didn't want to be there. I saw that as a coach. I didn't understand it, that they would rather be home than win a title. I tried to get that across to them. That one can be on me. Okay. And Mark Spears says, how do you deal with all the criticism you receive from the media and social media for losing 3-1 series leads 4 times? And he's also lost 3-2 series leads another handful of times. I believe he's lost 7 game 7s where he had a 3-2 lead, at least in the series. And he says, there's nothing I can do about it. I got an 8 seed up 3-1. That's not bad coaching. The one with the Clippers got away, but no one tells the real story. It's unfair in some ways. I don't get enough credit for getting the 3 wins. I get credit for losing. I always say, what if we lost to Houston in 6 instead of 7? No one cares. And this proved to be on the Infinity Sports Network program last night. The one topic that got people engaged. People were really interested in talking about it because do you get that kind of credit? I've talked a lot with LeBron James. He gets criticized for losing finals, but he did drag really bad teams to the finals. And he also, sometimes he just went up against a Kevin Durant Warriors team, which how are you supposed to deal with that? It was the perfect storm of slipping him in contractually. They went to get KD, not as like a lark, but because they actually needed him to beat you. So some of those finals losses, I think it's tough to say, oh no, you lost in the finals when you should get some credit for that. But then, you got to look at it with other situations. Nobody ever says Marv Levy's a 4-time AFC championship winning head coach. They say, oh, he went and lost 4 Super Bowls in a row.
Sure.
If I run 24 miles of a marathon, did I run a marathon? If I only got to 96%, is Cold Harbor even completed? And then the other one I was bringing up was, do you know the third guy that went to the moon for Apollo 11? It was Buzz Aldrin, Neil Armstrong, and then there was a third gentleman named Michael Collins.
I only know this because of that movie from 6-7 years ago.
So Michael Collins went to the moon, but he never stepped foot on the moon.
Right.
So did he really go to the moon?
Yes.
I think he went to the moon, but he never was on the moon. I question whether any of us on any of these missions have ever been to the moon, but I know that's not your point. So,
and I don't know if you're joking, but I'm not as 100% as I used to be.
I'm definitely
joking. I'm joking.
You're 50-50?
Might be 55-45.
Yeah, when they're at the beginning of the 60s, when they're like, we're going to the moon by the end of the decade, and then they just get in under the buzzer.
I think it's some pretty good storytelling. It's a coincidental, some good narrative.
But how do you feel about if you go? I've been to the Denver airport 3 times.
Oh, I'm all in on that one. That's one conspiracy.
Have you been to Denver?
Well, the Denver airport conspiracy, yeah.
Oh, that's not what you were getting at. Okay, no, I now see your other point. But the Denver airport is fucked. But
I've never stepped foot out of the airport. So have I been to Colorado?
Oh.
But then again, if I'm going to Germany and have a layover in Spain and I'm at a Spanish airport, I'm going to say I've been to Spain. Right?
I think you can say you've been there, but that's where it ends. That's the only thing you've done.
Yeah, your feet didn't touch the earth upon which, but.
And then a caller last night said, Bart, here's why you've been to Denver. Because if your plane was to crash at the airport, you would have died in Denver. And I'm like, well, let's just jump to extremes. So I think with Doc, it's interesting because I do think you should get credit. I mean, getting to that 7th game, it's a different story if he didn't coach as well. And if he got 2 wins, he's getting penalized for getting another win, even though the thing is, the same. He can't close out that game 7, and there's something bad about that, but he's not getting credit for the big wins. But then again, I didn't run a marathon if I only went 24 instead of the 26.2. And I think what really got me on this, and we'll talk about Severance more in a bit, was when I was talking about this out loud yesterday. I said, no, if you complete 96% of Cold Harbor, it's not completed. So I'm almost like, I do think LeBron gets a little too much heat, but Doc Rivers agreeing with the argument I've been making has almost made me backtrack from the argument I've been making, because he didn't complete the task at hand. Doesn't matter if you win 3 or 2 or 1. Doesn't matter if you're leading 3 quarters and then lose the game. You've got to complete the mission to get credit for completing the mission. And so this LeBron take I've had forever, Doc Rivers agreeing with me has gotten me to disagree with my own self.
Doc has a way of doing that.
Yeah. And I think, like, I was so excited at first because I was like, oh, Doc, yes, this is great. But then obviously it's like, people can do nothing that don't like Doc Rivers. They can just sit around, and within a couple of days, Doc will give you something that you can just absolutely tear through and attack and see, this is why this guy fucking sucks. So I do think Doc is like way more harshly criticized than he should be. I just think once something is acceptable to criticize, then everyone feels like they can criticize it a little stronger.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Doc Rivers is one of those guys.
Yeah.
Do you think you should get credit for the 3 wins?
No.
Okay. Well, then there's that. That's why you asked the questions.
I can give you my big picture Doc take very briefly.
Anything to continue the conversation that I
was kind of waiting for Grant, because he's just kind of been doing stuff. So I'm like, I'll just give you a quick answer and then let Grant expound. But
it would be the easy thing as a sports
follow the script, Paul,
radio host. And we've talked about this, where I think a lot of sports talk radio people, they're not necessarily interesting or thoughtful. They just say sports things in the cadence that you're supposed to do. Like, if you're a sports talk show, I got a rant about something, and you just like, it would be the easy thing to get my notes out and to list all of Doc Rivers' failures and how he sucked at all of these spots and get really mad and bent. Doc Rivers. I'm not going to do it. Like, I'm not going to let Doc Rivers get me on tilt while he is here. Now, if Dame was healthy and Giannis was healthy and they looked amazing, and it's like, this is a title team, and the reason they're not going to win a title is because Doc is a moron, then okay, well then yeah, maybe I'd rant about it. But I'm just going to ignore him like he's an end table that I'm just going to ignore him. And I'm not building segments on my show about yelling about Doc Rivers. I will not let him do that to me. I'm going to roll my eyes and ignore him.
But I think because it's interesting the way you said about like the Denver thing versus the moon thing, because when you do your LeBron argument, I have always resonated with that idea, like, oh, that's actually a good counter thought to say, well, he got to those finals. Is that nothing? So you'd say, if the mission, you kept saying, like, did they complete the mission? If the mission was to win the East, when LeBron was a Cav the first time, like, yeah, like, mission accomplished, right? like But
there's only one champion, and I don't know that you should but if you win a division title, that's not nothing.
But if like Andy Reid's
you win the conference, that's not nothing.
It's not nothing. But like, if Andy Reid's coaching career ended after Philly, he would be the guy that couldn't get over the hump. He would be the guy that he just wasn't quite good enough as a coach to make it to the Super Bowl. You reference like those Bills teams in the 90s. They're not thought of as like this AFC juggernaut. They're thought of as this loser. But it's.
Doesn't his Chiefs years now, instead of the Chiefs years telling you, oh, Andy Reid figured it out and became a great coach, when it should maybe tell us, oh, yeah, it turns out when you get Patrick Mahomes, like, yeah, you can win.
So I heard this take. I want to say it was Bill Simmons, but I don't know for sure. And it was this idea that Shanahan is the new Andy Reid. He's going to go to a different team.
Yeah.
And then, having overcome the fact that he just wasn't naturally good as like the clutch coach guy with fourth quarters on the line and overtimes on the line. He needed a bunch of failures in that regard. He was a great coach, Shanahan, but he just needed a bunch of failures, needed to change jobs. And then on the second try, at first you seem to resonate. Now you're giggling.
No.
But Andy Reid, Andy Reid, to make this comparison, I think people are already Kyle Shanahan's got as many winning seasons with the 49ers as he does losing seasons, by the by.
Yeah. When you said that Kyle Shanahan's a great coach, Bart was like, well, like it was small, but I saw it and I knew exactly what he meant. That's a fun take. That's a fun thing to hash out. Like, could Kyle Shanahan, there's a mutual parting of ways where both sides realize this is great, but we need to do this with other people, and then it works out.
I was thinking about
could Eric Spoelstra win a title without LeBron? The answer is no.
No.
Here's the flip side of that, and we can do the jokey part of Spoelstra. If Shanahan was a free agent, how many teams would seriously look in the mirror and say, all right, we obviously weren't planning to fire our head coach, but we have to at least take a meeting on this. Same with Spoelstra. How many teams
that about Belichick, though? Now he's coaching college kids.
But the difference there is when you're having
doing a college kid.
Doing one.
Sorry, Paul.
Christ.
But when you're having the conversation with Belichick, you're talking about a guy in his 70s. You're not talking about a guy who has 20 plus years of coaching career left. So I do think that's absolutely different. So, I mean, in all honesty, like top of your head, how many teams, if Shanahan is fired tomorrow, how many teams have a meeting that same day with all the brass and say, we have to talk? I'm going to say 25 minimum.
Oh, shit. Okay.
What were you going to say?
9.
Really?
Well, I don't want it to be your answer, and even though it probably is.
Yeah. Spoelstra is getting...
What do you think about my take that Shanahan and John Lynch should trade jobs for a year?
Worked for the Celtics, but kind of not the same, but...
Yeah.
I think John Lynch is absolute dog shit as a GM. Well, you're absolute dog shit.
But you're gonna find that out now, because he's having to dump a lot of salary, a lot of quality players, and now the question is, can he backfill enough that, or was the depth in the cupboard so bare, and he doesn't have the skills as a GM to refill it? So we don't. I think to some degree we don't know how good John Lynch is yet.
Didn't he draft most of these guys though?
But I'm
even
saying,
Brock Purdy was Shanahan's.
But I'm saying he kind of went through this period, Lynch did, where he
also traded 3 firsts for Trey Lance, but no big deal.
No, it's not a big. I know this is one of your good talking points, but like you should keep hammering it. Grant, what I'm saying is though, is like he paid. Lynch never said no to not paying somebody up until pretty much now. Everyone who he brought in was like, oh, this guy's good. They had maybe a contract holdout. They had like an Ayuk situation. There are other guys that kind of like waffled. But in the end, he's like, here's a bunch of money. And he kept, it's like for the people who are like, the cap isn't real. Well, like the bill came due.
Where did Trey Lance sign? Where's Trey Lance?
Is he in Dallas still?
Is he still, or is he gone now?
I thought he went somewhere else.
So anyway, I guess, Grant, I'm saying now that the bill is due on the 49ers credit card, does John Lynch have the ability, or is it going to be kind of like the Cowboys, where it's a super top-heavy organization, right? Where they have several great players, Lamb and Parsons, or is it just going to be, By the way, there's a circulating story in the past hour. Have you seen the Dak Prescott rumor report? I guess.
Yeah, that old man with an internet show.
Yes, it's nothing.
Too much content.
It's too much. But Bart, you're gonna hosting the show that you do. Someone is going to call you tonight and say, Bart, do you really think they're going to trade Dak Prescott? So prepare yourself accordingly.
Who's saying they're going to skip?
No, there's it's got like 1 million views in the past hour. I don't even know who it is.
Bonus time with Bruce Drenman.
Yeah.
So what's the take?
That the Browns are trying to trade for Dak Prescott today. Dak Prescott, who has a no trade clause.
They have no money to pay a quarterback.
What if they paid 2 though?
Yeah, exactly.
The latest I saw on Trey Lance was CFL's Saskatchewan Roughriders add Trey Lance to their negotiating list.
Yeah, I saw that. What is that? I did read that today. What does that mean?
I guess it's somebody that they could talk to.
What becomes of the CFL if we annex Canada?
I was thinking about that.
No, you weren't.
I don't. I've been thinking. My wife told me the other day. She goes, Bart, if you ask me if the World Cup is still going to happen one more fucking time.
He actually probably has thought about this, Paul, because it has political implications, not because it's sports relevant at all.
So I am a little late on the segue here, but what I was going to say was, do you know who wishes they had 25% off?
Oh my goodness.
Every single free agent that they could acquire? because they're running out of money, is John Lynch. And if you want 25% off, you can go to happyplacehemp.com and you will be able to relieve the pain if you are a San Francisco fan or maybe one of our great teams. The teams are great, but they always lose. And so immediately I rush to the cabinet and find my Delta friends. Happyplacehemp.com. The promo code is Bart. They've got gummies. They've got balms and tinctures, and the CBD oils and all that stuff is great. The gummies are very popular, obviously. That is a big draw, and you can get those gummies delivered to your house safely and securely, and they'll knock off the shipping again with the promo code Bart. Also, the seltzers have become a big thing just in the whole industry, with more bars having this stuff, with people enjoying the THC in that way, and Happy Place Hemp is definitely on the cutting edge of that. So check them out, shop around, happyplacehemp.com. The promo code is Bart at checkout, B-A-R-T. That's my name. B-A-R-T at checkout for 25% off every single order, no matter how many times you order from there. All right. Paulie Walnuts. Anything else for us before we get into Severance, which you've been chomping at the bit to talk 8 minutes about for the last week?
He's wanted to do hash it out in a long form discussion.
Yeah, it's got to be a long form discussion. It can't just be.
But like, it's like, oh yeah, let me give you like my text thoughts. Like, no, like we do this together. This is more fun. No, let me ask you this one. Because we'll save Severance time. Severance is still coming for those interested. This is a Bucks question. I saw it listed about basically the past decade of something that has stopped the Bucks, obviously aside from their actual championship year, of something devastating that, for all intents and purposes, ruined their playoff. And I want to know the one that is the most, in hindsight, how do I want to say this? Either like detrimental or the one that you think was the one that hurts the most. How about that? Let's go with the one that hurts the most as a Bucks fan. I think some of these are starting a long time ago, but 2014 Jabari ACL, 2017 the other Jabari ACL. Here's the ones that get really challenging. 2019, you're one shot away from being up 3-0 in the Eastern Conference Finals. 2020, you're like 52-12, and then COVID. Okay, that one
was tough.
2022, Middleton.
Wicked asked me on a show, what's the one thing that could stop the Bucks? And I said coronavirus.
Oh my gosh. Bury that audio.
Dude, I was Captain COVID, remember?
I do. Now they want us to wear too much.
They want us to wear a mask, forearm mask.
2022, Middleton hurt. 2023, Giannis hurt. 2024, Giannis hurt. 2025, probably no Dame. The one that hurts the most as a Bucks fan out of this just shit list that accompanies their one title, which again, not to diminish the one, but the one that hurts the most is the 2019 being up 2-0, almost 3-0 in the Eastern Conference Finals. That the 2019 one hurts the most among those.
I mean, there's a revisionist history where the Bucks could win that, win 2020, win 2021.
I know.
I mean, they could have won 3 chips in a row.
Yeah.
And I think we're lucky that they've got one with everything that's happened.
Probably.
Specifically the injuries. I've got a group chat with some buddies, and one of the guys was like, oh, fuck, Dame's out. And within 45 minutes, they were trying to figure out the best trade package they could get for Giannis.
I think, honestly, I want Giannis to stay here forever if he wants to. We had this conversation when Luka was traded, but I actually think that's a perfectly fine.
Well, if he's going to go someday, if he's not going to finish here, shouldn't we be in control of that?
We as in the Bucks?
Yeah.
Well, yes, but I mean, you want it to be like whatever the most opposite of what the Luka situation was as you humanly can. You want it to be something where he's a Buck for life, even if he spends the last 8 years elsewhere. You know what I mean?
Well, no, you want to trade him for someone good, though. That's the difference between the Luka, ideally.
Yeah. Right.
Also, if we're getting a package of picks, a horse can go too, because I don't want him making a single one of those picks.
I don't want 2031 picks. Like, I want tomorrow's pick.
Yeah, right. Especially
I want Cooper Flag.
That would be great.
So that's where people are. I think that retroactively, because they won one, it helps. Did I tell you this analogy I got from a buddy? He goes, Bart, I realized that Damian Lillard is Angels Albert Pujols.
I think you shared this with us, or with me at least, in a chat.
And then I'm like, fuck, does that make Giannis Mike Trout? But
I
at
think
least they won one.
right.
So Giannis is going on a very Rodgers-y, like, oh, there's many chances that they should have had.
Yeah.
I think, 2019 hurts. Middleton getting hurt the very next year sucked. And then, they fire Bud. Because the take I've always had about the Bucks is they keep making massive decisions as if the team has failed and they need to change something about the team. But they don't know if the team has failed because the team hasn't stayed healthy enough to show if they were going to fail or not.
Mm-hmm.
And they're fluky injuries. You can't imagine Damian Lillard is going to have deep vein thrombosis
Right.
at this point in the season. And I think what bothers me, so the answer to your question is because I think what bothers me the most about all this retroactively in hindsight, which is 2010 for me, is that Damian Lillard was involved in a trade for Drew Holiday, and then the Celtics won the championship right away, because I don't think the practice of that was terrible.
Right.
We watched Drew Holiday not give them, like, if they would have had Dame instead of Drew when they needed that, with Middleton being hurt, that could have gone differently. So they clearly thought they had a need. It's just that Drew ended up finding his way to Boston, where he didn't have to be the fourth. He was the fourth guy. And
fifth
revisionist history, sometimes revisionist history has people thinking that he was traded directly to Boston. I mean, you could have had some foresight and thought, oh, maybe they'll, but we didn't trade him. We didn't give him to Boston. Then again, this group chat I'm in, one of the guys goes, dude, that was crazy. We traded for Dame and then we traded Drew. And I'm like, how the fuck do you get that wrong? What the fuck, man? So I think the Drew Holiday thing, and then also hiring Adrian Griffin, that was a fucking mistake.
I mean, there are moments I forget that happened.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Like, it's like, oh, fuck. Like, when you just said it, my first reaction was not, it wasn't like, right, when Adrian Griffin, it was like, oh, that's right. Like, Adrian Griffin was the coach for a while. I don't know.
Grant?
I think the year after the championship hurts the most, because I think that team, unlike the others, was built for it. Giannis was playing at an unbelievable level. I thought they were riding the confidence, and they had the edge of the year that they had just done it. Whereas in some of these other years, they've gone down. They look a little shell shocked. They get this aura about them where they're like, fuck, it's happening again. We're going to lose to the Heat again, or we're going to get, you know what I mean? It's the bubble all over again. The year after the year after they won the title, that team was legit, and they took a really good Celtics team who ultimately won the East, to 7 games. And if not for Jason Tatum pulling 40 out of his ass, they would have. Some of these other years, they were banged up. So, like, 2 years ago, they lose to the Heat in round 1 as a 1 seed. Now Giannis was hurt. Okay, but if you're a championship level team, you don't lose in 5 multiple times on your own floor to an 8 seed. You know what I mean? I don't care that Giannis missed a little time. Like, if you lost in 7 in a war, okay, sure, right? But some of these years, I like against the Raptors, they were close, but I still think they were far. Like, I still don't think they were a championship level team. The year they won it, they were championship level, and the year directly after. Those are the 2 years that I think they were the perfect prime years. They won one, and they came up short in another, I think in part because of a Chris Middleton injury. So that's what sticks with me is that year mostly.
See, it's interesting you say that. The top 2 I was debating between as the one to suggest in the question was 2019, when, Grant, I was doing a show with this guy named Bill Michaels, who I think you might know.
Better call Paul.
But what I remember articulating was, like, I was going to all these games, and it came to a point where we started talking about Bucks in the middle of the Packers segment. And what I remember about it is it was like I was saying, jinxing, some might say, talking about how, like, it's hard to believe as a Bucks fan that I've lived my whole life with a dog shit franchise, being born in the mid 80s. And now they're, like, cruising to the finals. I remember saying something really close to that And then, of course, kicking myself because then I'm at game, whatever it was, and you just kind of start to feel, oh shit, like this is a series. Oh no, like this is slipping away. Oh my God, they're gonna lose this. Like, so that was my first one, just some partially with the emotional attachment. But number two was they were dominant in 2020.
Yeah. There's
I mean,
been plenty of teams that are, and I don't take anything away from that. There's been plenty of teams that are dominant in the regular season, and then the complexion of things change when you get into 7-game series, though.
But they had just come off of, in 2020, they had just come off of the terrible Raptors comeback series. So then the logic for me was like, that sucked, but they learned from it, right? You learn from this situation, you grow from it, and now you're just cruising through the regular season. You're great. So I don't know. They all
You
suck.
never know.
2000
And that's a bummer.
2001 was worse than any of those.
What?
I love how even national pundits will randomly in passing in conversations be like, yeah, and the league was in the bag for Philly that year. Like, it's not just Milwaukee people who say it. You know what I mean?
2001.
Oh, 2001.
Yeah, that was worse than any of these.
Was that the Iverson
Yeah.
series, right? Okay.
Yeah,
And
then
9/11.
Eric Snow kicked the shit out of us.
Eric Snow. I remember it well. That's all I got.
Sounds like it. Yeah.
All I would say is, like, I think if we do this topic and I know, right? It took me a road to, and then I remember Eric Snow. Grant, don't be a dick.
Sorry.
For a while, I didn't know if you remembered the year 2001.
When you said it, I thought you said, my brain interpreted 2021, and I was like, the year they won the title, and then I realized I thought you were doing a bit where you're like 2021.
No, sometimes I say
2001. So that was my hang up. Don't remember where I was going next, but yeah. Any other
I'll
thoughts
just say one thing that what?
May I real quick? I think we do this in 5 years, if this Dame situation, let's say he's out for the rest of the year, playoffs included, and the Bucks lose in 5 or 6 in the first round, and that leads to the end of the era. Like, let's say, Bart, to your text chain friend point, if this blood clot situation could, in theory, spell an early playoff exit, could then, in theory, have the Bucks say, you know what? It's time. Could have Giannis say, you know what? It's time, right? Then this one might be the worst in hindsight, just because it would be like the last chapter.
Yeah,
now,
but
we're far away from that, but it could.
But it's not like they were going to win. It's not like
if what you're saying is true, it's the equivalent of being smothered with a pillow in hospice care. It's like, okay, yeah, I get it from Giannis's perspective. Like, it's him and no one else, and Doc is their fucking coach. Like, it'd be one thing if they had, like, this guy. I mean, we're doing all we can. He's getting you in the best possible position, but it's Doc who's doing interviews about blowing through on leads. I'm not going to get mad about it. I said,
okay.
I want to say real quick, it does not feel to me like the Brewers have a opening day tomorrow.
It does not at all either. I heard, Grant, you might have said something in our group chat like on Monday about if we were going to talk on Wednesday or if we were going to talk on Thursday, and you said not Thursday because of Brewers opening day. And I said, and I thought, like, oh wait, but it's not April yet. Was my first thought. It's like, oh my God, that's right. They're going to
March thing's weird. Yeah.
March 27th. Like, that's not right. Like, so it took me until 3 days before opening day to even realize that. And now it's here and I'm like, not ready.
I'm excited for Rock and Joe Buck, though.
I'm excited, but I'm not
ready.
Ready.
Killer. I'm going to the home opener on Monday. First time ever that I will be in attendance for that. So I'm
waiting to see if I get a credential.
As a fan, I'm going with a bunch of coworkers. So as I tell our sports director, and it pisses him off to no end, I'll be covering the game from a fan perspective.
There you go.
He fucking hates that shit.
All right. We want to talk about Severance a little bit.
We do. Yep.
Season 2 finished a week ago. I don't know that it packed the same punch as season 1. I think
the finale specifically.
No, the season. I think we were the 4 of them working in that room. We didn't get a lot of that, which naturally that's going to happen. I mean, I watch Abbott Elementary. We just were catching up the other night, and they're like not in the schools, but that's what happens when you expand the characters and expand the world. You can have those episodes where they're outside a little bit. I mean, I still think Severance is a great show. I think season 1 was better than season 2.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts?
I didn't know if you were mocking me at first, because when we talked about Severance 2 weeks ago, Grant gave me a really hard time because I said, the thing I'm not liking so far is that I want to watch the 4 of them in their cubicle areas. And Grant's like, The Office, you can go watch The Office if you really need to see whatever. And I was like, okay.
I
But
did say that. That's
you
correct.
did. But because I was like, so that made me feel like, okay, maybe that's kind of a wild take. But now, Bart, I thought you were at first going to mock me for saying that, but it's like, no, that must be an independent thought that you also have, which is like they explored so much space outside of Lumen headquarters and outside of their 4-person cubicle area that I'm actually relieved to hear you give that level of critique, because that's what I wanted to see more of. The other thing I wanted to see more of, you know what? Let's talk about it this way. I'm going to give you an action on this. And I'm probably going to be a little bit more negative than the two of you. I'll say similar things to Bart. Great show. Love it. I'll say something that Grant's going to say
I
probably.
mean, it's literally the show I've been waiting my entire life for.
Is it a top 1, 2, 3 show for you of all time?
Well, I'm still, even though it ended weird, I still love Lost as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was like 24. I made my personality. I'm not gonna put 24 out of the top 5. Like Breaking Bad and that shit was good, but I don't know that I was emotionally like I like Daredevil better than I like Breaking Bad. You know?
Wow. Okay. Interesting. So here's how I thought, and this is something I was talking with a different buddy about. I struggled with the pacing. I struggled with some of like the backstory episodes that could have been condensed a lot. So here's how I'll ask the question.
The Gemma one was perfect.
Sure. But I think
the Cobell one was not.
The Cobell one, and I kind of read an article the other day that talked about like that one, the Cobell one was like the lowest rated by a mile. But I think that one came right after.
That was like the episode of Stranger Things when 11 was out running around with this group of people that we never heard from again. Mm-hmm. Remember that one?
I do remember that one. If Severance season 2 was only 30% of the length and the other 70% was cut, it would have been a much better season. You could have cut 70% of season 2 and improved the quality.
No. I don't know that you can say it. See, I think the problem was for some reason we kept building towards the finale as if it was the finale. This was a season finale. There's more Severance to come. But for some reason, we're like, we need all these questions answered. And I don't think now when Grant made me text Peter Bukowski about this earlier today.
I did not make you text him. That's not what happened. That's not what went down.
What I had said was problems with Severance season 2 included being too cute, confusing us if the Ortbo was real or not. Like, was that real? Were they in a simulation? Because they were just there and it was exciting at first. And you're like, okay, I need some explanation.
Mm-hmm.
Then I think later Devin was like, do you know there's a retreat? And we're like, oh, okay. Like, did they get in a van? Did they agree to do this? How did they get there? The Cobell episode being standalone, all the Cobell stuff is fine if you're like interjecting it with another, like it just couldn't be the whole thing.
Right.
The Gemma thing could. The Cobell thing, no. A lack of the 4 together, and then no mention of Petey ever. Like,
yeah,
can you just say his fucking name at least? Say the name Petey. You start over in season 1 and you're like, holy fuck, this Petey guy is in like the basis of these 4 episodes. He must be a very important character. And then he's just dead at a gas station.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, I liked it.
So
None of the Audis knew Petey. None of them knew Petey.
But your central character,
even like Mara, even when she was like doing his brain, she's not like, they like just wouldn't. If they would just say the name Petey, I don't know. If Mark would talk to Devin about Petey,
it's a bizarre critique, just in my opinion. But
I disagree.
It's fine.
Now I think the segment when Mark was talking to Mark, some of the Mark is I think Mark doing the recorder thing that was some of the finest television I have ever seen. I was just blown away.
Do you guys watch the behind the episode thing after the episode?
I didn't until the finale. I'm going to go back and watch them, but I always wanted just like, okay, let me pause there.
Interesting.
But yeah, I did after the season finale.
It's just something that all of the creators were like, we've been waiting to do this since like the beginning, or do something like this.
Wait, what? Waiting to
like
do
Mark talking to himself in one way or another.
Oh, right.
The goats kind of have a lost polar bear feel, where it's like it wasn't really that big of a deal.
Yeah.
They're just breeding goats to kill them.
Apparently, they're just sacrifices.
Because I saw one theory that Rickon is a goat.
Saw this one too. Yep.
By the way, where is he?
I'm good with less Rickon.
And where's Natalie?
I saw a tweet where it's like the Rickon thing is funny because Devin just also happens to live with a character from I Think You Should Leave, and that's just a part of the show. And I'm like, yeah, that does kind of pretty nicely.
Here's my other. This is like the stupidest critique. There's no way those two click. Those two characters would not be married. Or mm-mm. That's nonsense. She would not.
She's more into Gemma.
She would not be into Rickon. Like that doesn't make sense for her, right?
I don't know. You see a lot of like
they are way too.
You see a lot of girls that I see in high school that at the time I thought, man, they would never go for a guy like me. The guys they married, I'm objectively better looking than. And I'm just like, what in the fuck was I worried about?
I was more saying that the emotional compatibility of the two, but
I saw a plot that the whole plot of Severance would change if they had just one more security guard on the severed floor. But then I saw that Milchick like wants a lot, like they want this to happen. Like there's got to be they want them to explore. Milchick never really punishes anybody. You know, he's like, I think the Milchick thing definitely got more interesting. Him with that animatronic Kier was really good. The band came. So are they severed, or are they like Milchick when they can just come down?
No, it sounded like they were severed because they were they like that's their job.
So they come to work, practice band, and then go leave.
Yeah.
I can get behind that. There's just a lot of them. It would make a little more sense if Lumen just had a band.
They were. I thought
the house band.
I thought the funniest part was how they were not deterred at all from what was happening around them. They're just still. Well,
it's probably the only thing they've ever known.
Yeah,
they were brought into this world to play the fucking drum and the trumpet, and they're like, "Well, that's why we're here."
I think if I would have watched the Gemma episode and the finale, I could have had the main gist of.
But that's not the point.
I'm not saying it's the point.
But what about we haven't even mentioned Dylan?
Acting.
We haven't mentioned Irving. The Dylan scenes were, heartbreaking. Mm-hmm. Irving, who was he talking to on the phone, and what's Bert's deal? Still a lot of good questions there. I think what's interesting to note is where we're leaving off with season 2 is the innies are running around. How the fuck are they gonna so they're how are they gonna be where are Mark and Helly gonna go that they're gonna be happy?
They killed a guy. He killed a guy in the building, and they're like, let's just go hang out.
He did not mean to.
How are they going to go from out? How are the outies ever going to want to be innies, and how are the innies ever going to want to be outies? There's going to be a real battle there. The last thing that outie Mark remembers is kissing Gemma.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy!
So right now, the last thing in outie Mark's life is kissing Gemma.
Mm-hmm.
Gemma doesn't know that Mark is severed. Does she know that she thinks that's Mark choosing Helly?
No.
And at one point, they told her your husband left and found another woman. They told her that.
I think this is an interesting question that I don't know is conclusive, but I thought I read that the actress who plays Gemma is under the impression that her character thinks Mark is severed and understands that there's two Marks.
I don't know about that.
That's the actress's interpretation of, but that doesn't mean it's right. Sounds like they don't tell. So by who and what is Miss Huang? What is the deal here? What's our understanding of why is she there?
And why were those people in the first episode and then just never there again?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, maybe
you just can't have maybe
Arrested
there for a little bit.
You just have maybe for an episode.
Yeah, you know what would have been really fun is if it I don't know why could it not have just been maybe Fume K? That's the kind of crossover I'm looking for.
Yeah.
She's disenchanted with her life with the Bluth Company. She gets severed.
But again, we liked it.
We liked it. It's very interesting. I think much like Grant's
like, it'd be better if there were no podcast talking
exactly
about it.
right.
And
It's a good take. It's a good
but
take.
here we are.
Here's the thing. And I watched it not live, but very close to live because Bart put me on it. And there are so many of us in the world who watched season 1 and just sat with it peacefully for 3 years. We're like, that's a cool show. Man, when season 2 comes out, whenever that is, I can't wait. It'll be cool. I can't wait to see what happens. And then all these people, and I don't blame them, binge it right before it comes out, and they start shitting their pants a month into the season because they're like, we haven't figured out anything. It's like, yay, some of us just hung out and lived our lives for 3 years, and we're like, that's a cool show.
Our favorite band got very popular. Our favorite band got very popular, and that's
it's not even like it's my favorite band. It's just a band that
you enjoyed quietly, and then everyone's like, this is the best band, but this new song is not living up to my standards that I just set in the past 3 weeks.
So take it this way, because we talked about this a week or two ago, and I told you, like, sometimes if you just got to surrender yourself to the creator of whatever you're enjoying. Like, do you trust and think that they are good? Then just try to get on the ride that they're leading. Okay.
Sure.
Even if you think the show is going too slow and it farted around too much with character development and but weren't they awesome at it? Like the visuals and the vibe, like Pete Bukowski's like, oh, all your generation wants is vibes so you can post memes on the internet. It's like, okay, it's not my fault that everyone's looking for something to meme. But like, doesn't this show look and sound unlike anything you've really ever seen before? You know what I mean? Like, even if they're just creating...
There hasn't been a theme song this good since Inception.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
Game of Thrones is a better theme song.
I didn't watch that.
It's a great theme song.
What's your favorite television theme song? What's the best? Or intro?
Oh, baby, I hear the blues are calling, tossed salad and scrambled eggs.
What is that?
Frasier.
Oh, I didn't watch Frasier.
And I don't know what to do with my tossed salad and scrambled eggs. Oh, by the way, The Conners is back for its 6-episode finale tonight.
Yeah.
That's a good one, though.
How about this one?
No, I was thinking Home Improvement. What?
I had a buddy who told me initially, he softened his stance on this, but he said, are you caught up? And I said, yeah. He said, any Mark is an asshole. So let me ask you this. Any Mark is an asshole. Mm-hmm or mm-mm.
Who are you rooting for? Innie or Outie?
I don't know. Outie.
Outie. I don't believe the Innies to be real people with lives that matter. Okay.
Outie Mark seems more like... Outie Mark lied. He's like, I started this reintegration for you.
Yeah.
And then he hung up the video and he's like, fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Devin! He's not fucking doing it. Mark.
Oh, don't. Her voice is really tough.
It's awesome.
I don't think I like her at all.
I love every choice she makes in the show. Just an insane woman. There's a lot going on in her brain, and that's reflected in the choices that she makes as an actress.
Mm-hmm. They're good choices as an actress, but it's hard to like.
You're supposed to be conflicted about her. You're not sure if you can trust her, but you don't really have any choice. That's the whole point of the thing.
Outie Helly's dad has the villainousty voice ever.
I wish you would take them raw.
Sounds like Notebook Mike.
I just want that guy, that actor, to play a hero in something, just for the absolute, like.
He's in Avengers Doomsday as the new Captain America.
Yeah. They just announced it 5 minutes ago.
So wait, how do we feel? Innie Mark? Is this just
by the way,
is this a self-preservation for Innie Mark?
Does Mr. Egan want to kill Outie Helly and keep Innie Helly?
Can you do that?
That's kind of what it sounded like. But then what if Innie Helly is like, all right, fine, I'll do it, but you need to keep Innie Mark too. You know what I mean?
Like, how are they going to get out of there?
I need to know if you think that Innie Mark is an a-hole or not.
I don't think Innie Mark is an asshole at all. Innie Mark is... So. I mean, these guys were born... You know what I realized, too, is I have an Innie.
Talking about belly buttons?
No, there's this version of me when I get blackout drunk. That is a completely different personality than me. He's like more angry and just more like he's just like more angry.
which is
So
impressive.
I now look at my blackout drunk phase as that's my innie. I'm not to be held accountable for what my innie tweets. You mean one day I almost got fired because my innie was tweeting?
That's not fair.
I have to wait. You know how many mornings I woke up and looked at Twitter and was like, what the fuck did my innie tweet last night on my account?
So on Friday night, you were texting us what I thought was during your show. And then after a few texts, I didn't know that you were not on that night, this past Friday night. And I got up the next day, like there weren't podcasts. And I was like, okay, that makes a lot more sense now because he wasn't working because that was any Bart texting us.
What was I talking about on Friday night?
I don't know, but you could just tell it wasn't like you were like doing this on the on-air mid breaks or anything. It was, it was drinky Bart. I don't remember what it was, but I just knew the vibe was not okay. He's talking to people right now across the airwaves.
Yeah, because I remember.
Well, you probably don't want to.
I can't. But yeah, that was any Bart.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Audi Bart agrees. Audi Bart agrees with what I sent you.
Right.
But any Bart would be the one to say it.
Yeah, I got it.
Tim Boyle is a Titan. How about that?
It does change things for Cam Ward. Or mm-mm.
Anything else you want to say about Severance?
Nope.
Okay.
That's my new thing. I'm just going to give you.
That's why he asks the questions.
It was a binary question. It was what's that? It wasn't a leading. What's that called? Because I try to do it with my kid now. I don't try to ask him yes or no questions.
Right. You want to give it
open-ended?
Thank you.
Did we just say the same thing at the same time, Grant?
Yeah, I think we did.
Open-ended questions. All right. Well, thank you for stopping into the Winklerverse. If you've only watched the Severance part of this, there's nothing else I can direct you to. You can go watch. We talk about Wisconsin sports. I'm a nationally syndicated radio talk show host. No one seems to give a fuck about me. I mean, I just, like I was in the cab in Chicago and the score was on. Should I have been like, I'm on this station 3 hours a night? Then I was talking to Rami because I did a hit to end his score show. And I'm like, Rami, I'm on there. I'm like, I'm on the station 3 hours a night. Shouldn't I be like at remotes and shit? And he's like, let's not go that far.
It's not overly dissimilar from when on the Packers beat, I'd be in a random conversation and someone would say, I'm just really not like this year's team is like, and I'd be like, okay. Like they would talk to me as if they had like authoritative information. I'd be like, okay. Just cool theory, bro.
I'm always looking for that credit that I don't even want.
Yep.
I think I texted that to Carlos today because I was bitching about Adam Shine.
You ever seen BoJack Horseman, Bart?
No.
I watched BoJack.
I think you're very similar to BoJack in some respects.
Oh, that's interesting.
I said, I'm not looking for a bigger platform. I just don't like losers having more than me. That's fair, right?
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much.
Bye, dudes.
And we'll talk
Goodbye.
soon. Thanks for stopping into the Winklerverse.